Cool. We live?
Yes.
Think we are. Hi. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday, Steven.
Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday, friend. Welcome to a live stream from us here at Too Curious. My name is Ree. This is Steven. I'm glad it's a weekend. I hope that you're doing well today. Yeah, I am excited to be able to do tea and to do tea comfortably. Today's a good day. Yeah. Good days, bad days still happen, but I'm really grateful for when it's been a good day. So, yeah, today's agenda is to hang out, chill out, have fun, talk about some tea, say hi to you guys, say hi to us, and just have tea in the middle to discuss. I am going to be brewing today a Korean green tea because we are still in our Korean green tea and Japanese green tea kick. Really nice. So grab some tea, have some tea with us if you can. If you are not having tea, that's okay too. But it's nice to see you today. So let's say hi to our friends. Hi Jay, how's it going? Karen from Green Hall, nice to see you. Zen Society, Grace Census, Patrick, is that correct? Welcome. How are you guys doing today? And how's your week? We're good. I think it's been, yeah, this is a better week. It's been a challenging summer for us. And I think it's something I do want to talk about today because, just context, tea practice and the whole how do things go as a tea practitioner is very important to me. Those of you who know us have known us to have been doing tea for a very long time. I've been doing tea since 2012, 2010, around there. Working in tea for a very long time as well. But sometimes you just are not, quote unquote, progressing in tea, or you even don't have the capacity to make tea sometimes. That's why I feel really nice when you are able to actually sit down and do the thing. So all that to say, tea is a hobby. Tea can also be a career. Tea can mean a lot of things to different people, but whatever it means to you, it goes up and down, and that's okay. I've struggled to be okay with that sometimes. Oh, am I not making tea, therefore something's wrong with me, or my tea practice is not good enough. I'm not a tea person at this moment. They seem like very obvious kinds of questions, but they come to mind sometimes. Back in around July, we had a really nice June. July, some personal stuff happened and we didn't have tea. I didn't brew tea for a month. Steven was able to make tea for me. So occasionally, yeah. And that's just very normal. Yeah, it sucked that happened, but and then you kind of get back on it, and then now I can brew tea again, so just very normal. Not great, but that's life. Hopefully you guys are doing well though. Thank you for letting us know your name, Patrick, sending love from JM. Where is JM? Is that flag showing up for your chat, Steven? I don't have I can't see the flag emoji from my screen. Let's see. You can just Google JM emoji. Oh, from Jamaica. Wonderful. Is that right? Just want to make sure the emoji thing isn't tripping me out. If I saw the flag, actually, I would have seen. I would have known. Wonderful to see you. Always nice to have some folks who are, I like living in the United States. Has its problems, has its ups and downs, but I'm originally from the Philippines. So it's kind of nice to meet folks who are from all over. Okay, so I'm going to have some Mui Sejak. This is so for those of you who have done Korean tea before, Sejak will sound familiar. Sejak is the most common Korean green tea. It's kind of if we have to make the comparison, Sejak in Korea is the equivalent to sencha in Japan. Just, spring green tea that's just harvested on an average time, probably going to be average processing, average, not bad, just, that's a typical green tea. So this is a sejak, but this is also called a mui sejak, which I think is referring to how early it is. And I was going to look this up before stream, but I'm let me just show you what I do when I don't know what a tea is. And sometimes I still don't know what a tea is. A lot, Mui sejak. So I'm looking it up. Mui. Ah, wonderful. So the vendor's blog comes up. Mui Sejak is Oh, okay. Okay, okay. It's named very deeply and artistically. It's referring to a philosophical concept. And usually when a tea is named a little bit more romantically or philosophically, you're going to expect that the tea is going to be a higher grade tea than like a tea that's kind of just, chilling out. If you're buying from a vendor who knows what they're doing, you know, all of us have encountered like the very exotified, oh, from the mist of East Asia, picked by monks once in a blue moon, like kind of BS marketing, That's different. But once you are working with vendors who really know their stuff, who have a really deep connection to where the teas are coming from, or to people from there, once they start naming things like this, you kind of have to take them a little seriously, I would say. It's not, it's not normal. It's not typical for someone to name something with such a spirit, and such lofty feelings, unless they feel a certain way about the tea. So when I see that, I get very excited. I actually didn't know this. I've had this tea so many times, I haven't really remembered why it's named that. I thought that it was named after the early harvest date. And I've had this tea for years, like multiple years. So very normal to just like find things out about tea that you've known for a while. Yeah. Okay, I like this tea a lot. I haven't had it in a while though. I picked it today because I'm in the mood for a nice, good early harvest green tea. So yes, this Sejak is a early harvest green tea. It's a little, young leaves. So if you look at the leaves, if you'd show this, Stephen, here you go. This is the Mui Sejak we're having today. And you can see how tiny the leaves are. Look how tiny the buds. Mostly like buds. You might find this to look a little similar to like Bilochan, right? Some Bilochan is like this, tiny, tiny, tiny buds. Really pretty. You can tell that they're not broken. If you have tea like this, just pick it up, and you can kind of tell when it's full. Yeah, these are definitely buds. So we will brew this up. Yeah. Cool, cool. What are you guys having today? Jay, congratulations on your vacation, by the way. Very happy to see that. Malau, welcome. Agatha, welcome. Good evening. Keep steeping. Kami Tea Experience, Dino, welcome. How are you guys doing today? I'm good. Yeah. I'm doing pretty okay. We actually had a tricky tea session this morning. We had a tea session with our community this morning, and just it's I'm not yeah. One of our friends was brewing a tea that I've been wanting to study more, and we drank that tea, and it really fucked our shit up. It's like, wow. But luckily, this friend of ours is very close to us, and we're able to say things like, okay, what are we going to do if this tea doesn't work with us? How do you feel about it? And I have trust in them. They have trust in me, I hope. Usually they hear on chat. Otherwise, I'd be embarrassing them right now. But to be able to work with a tea like that, I think is fun. It's not fun because it hurts. It basically hurt my stomach. But... And then after that, after having that tea, what do? You kind of table it, leave until another day. Maybe you'll revisit it, And then we had some dongding, and that felt really good. It's good to have a tea that you can return to when you're not feeling so good. Dongding for me is one of those teas. So that's our tea history today. And this is going to be the third tea we have today. And I would like to shout out this really beautiful Shibo that I got. This is my newest piece of teaware. This is the first teaware I bought in like 2.5 years. Really didn't shop much during the pandemic. But this is a surprise that I got for Steven from Habain from RB Ceramics. Gorgeous Shibo. Beautiful, beautiful. So Habain is a Canadian, Quebec, originally from Quebec, I think, ceramicist who's now living in Thailand. If you like the look of this. Such a great guy. We're very, very lucky to have practiced with him before. Like, in terms of like, here on chat. I consider that to be practicing with you guys. But if I could, I would tackle him in the middle of Montreal and be like, why are you so good at making teaware? And he has really good tea too. I think now he's like sending out Thailand teas, which have been good as well. So Patrick is having some chai guy from Lickle Tea. Ooh, I've never heard of them before. Have to check that out. We are really big fans of masala chai, and chai in general. I'm not sure if it's masala chai, but and then Dina's having raw pu'er. Cool, cool. Jay's having breakfast blend. Nice, wonderful. How are your teas going, you guys? I'm just starting mine. Look how beautiful! I asked Kavain to please give us a shibo that would be able to show off green tea steeping. This is exactly what I asked for. And I'm just really, really just tickles me to be able to see it. Look how beautiful! So we're brewing with very, very high temperatures here, usually, right? Green tea has the whole, oh, you know, steep it a little bit lower temperature. I think that's valid too. But if you haven't tried steeping a green tea at high temperatures, if you have a good green tea, maybe consider it. Those of you who have drunk tea with us for a while know that we are really big proponents of just steeping hot. Reduce the time, you know, if you need to, but if you can steep hot, I really like the effect. So Mui Sejak at as hot as possible water in our shibo. Oh, I didn't even do the thing that, you know, I like to do, which is smell the leaves when they're dry. This is so nice. Beautiful. I also love the format of the shibo. You don't have to like stick your nose into there. You can if you want to, but it's such a big surface area that it's a wonderful, it just sits on your face like this. I made it. It sits on your face like this. Hee obligatory tee. So the shibo is just like very, very. It distributes the scent on your face, and so not only is it a smell sensation, but like a heat sensation. It's just very, very pleasant. I'm very happy. So surprise, Steven. Steven was surprised. Tian Tian T, welcome. Dino is asking, do you time the steep or just feel when it's ready? I just feel when it's ready right now. And yeah, tends to be okay. I work around my own tendencies, and you know what tendencies are? I am not born the most aware and mindful and relaxed person. So even after so many years of steeping tea, brewing over and over again, I still sometimes forget or I get distracted because I'm talking, right? On live especially. Or if I'm talking to Steven, we'll talk about a topic, we get really into it. Very common thing for me. So I design my tea life around that. Yes, I do try to work on being more mindful, just because it's nice to be able to like play around with things you can do better, right? But also, I pick teas that can steep hot, and you can also try to train yourself to have a general sense of how long a steep is that you want to be. You know, use a timer first and then eventually take the timer away. It's kind of how it went for me. So for now, it's by feel. And I like it. I like being able to do that. I will say this tea could have even gone a little longer. I was being a little bit soft with it because I've seen green tea steep a little bit harsh in this shibo. Not because it's the shibo's fault, but because it's very... it's thin, but it has good heat retention compared to a gaiwan. So if you're steeping a tea in this shibo versus a gaiwan, the shibo will keep the temperature better. Therefore, it will steep a little bit hotter, I would say. So I've oversteeped a tea in this shibo before, so I was being a little bit gentle with it. But I think this Mui Sejak is quite robust, so it can handle it. Very good. I'm not sure about you guys. Have you guys had a lot of early harvest green tea? Either this year or just in general? I feel like really good early harvest green tea has that like... like a little like giggly, tinkly, you know, if you're into music, like treble, sharp, high notes, tinkling notes, you know. I think you might have heard me before describe some, like, our favorite sencha, Miyako Nojo, as like a bell. It's like clear like a bell. Ding! This is also like that. Very, very tinkly. I don't know what that is, but there's something about early harvest green tea that's very good. And You can think of it as being maybe early harvest has, more caffeine, more stuff, because it's got more nutrients that the plants have saved up over a long time, along with that green tea taste, which is very refreshing. I love this. What a fantastic experience to brew with this Shibo. Wonderful.
Half tea curious, by the way. The water.
What, Springtide or
Half.
original? Okay. That's our water we're talking about. Our water formula that we're using.
See what curious.
So we're on half original. I thought it was Springtide. Because I thought that's what I loaded up today. So I'm brewing again. I do try to be careful with my green tea leaves. Because I'm brewing so hot, I try to brew just like nice kind of average pour. So I'm not hitting them so hard with the hot water. It's just, sprinkle. Look how pretty! My gosh. Beautiful. I'm really into the Shibo. My god. Ah, so nice. How's your tea doing, friend? I am liking where this is. It's actually a little bit muted by the Shibo, I would say. It's a little bit smoother than it usually is. A lot of umami. Beanie umami, I would say.
Is it doing what you would call an iron type of reaction?
I don't know. So if you look at the Shibo, and I need to confirm with Rabain on this, but I believe the Shibo has, if you look at the freckles, iron spots. So this is like iron, kind of like flecking. I don't know. Someone called the ceramicists. But iron is supposed to be quite the element to react with tea. It's quite reactive with tea flavor. I'm looking more into it, but so I don't want to say too much about it. But if you have like an iron kettle, maybe you've noticed this, or if you have another speckled piece of teaware like this, there's going to be a difference with the tea. Why iron? Iron's a heavy metal. I think it has different like phases too. Like there's different kinds of iron that can be present, and so it's quite reactive, I guess. Don't quote me on that. I still have to like study more about it, but I think that's what that is. More to be seen. Hi Gabby, how's it going? Happy Saturday to you too. Interesting. See, now I think I sleep a little bit too long. Just a tiny bit. Tiny, tiny, tiny bit. I'm still getting used to the Shibo. So usually when I'm brewing with a Gaiwan, I can pretty much time the steeps to hit wherever I can. But the Shibo is like, okay, the first steep, maybe, a little bit too short. This one's a little too long. You kind of get used to the pace of your teaware over time. Do you guys time the steeps, or do you just brew kind of without a timer? Or do you do a little bit of both? Because we will do a timer sometimes if we're like really set on figuring something out, but very rarely these days. And I'm glad you like the Shibo. Again, this is from Rabain at RB Ceramics on Etsy. I had it custom made for me to give to Steven, basically. Surprise! And they're also RB Ceramics on Instagram. So if you would like to follow them, can we drop his account, Steven, if you don't mind, on the chat? Just at RB Ceramics, basically. Thank you. So yeah, this Shibo is actually the first teaware that I used to brew after about a month of not brewing for myself. And it was nice. It was a nice treat. I think I would have gotten up to like brewing for myself again if it was just a Gaiwan, but just a nice little push. It's just interesting. I've seen this lately, just a little bit because I guess I'm talking about it. Tea is such a refuge. Like, I feel like a lot of us are drawn to tea because we're trying to find a place that's more calm or find a place that's more exciting or just find a place, right, for us that's interesting and fun to play around with and can satisfy that need to like learn and get nerdy about stuff while also feeling good. It's a really, really nice combination that I think draws us to tea. You know, if you have a different insight, I would like to hear that out too. It's interesting to see where everyone comes from. Um, isn't it interesting though when the thing that maintains you, like tea is my everyday. I like, love tea. I work in tea. It's gonna be tea forever, I think. Pretty sure. Unless, I don't know, we happen upon like a lavender field in the Philippines and we take it over, become lavender farmers. It's a lot of work though, so I don't say that lightly. It's not easy to farm.
We've been starting our Tofu Curious career.
Tofu curious, yeah. But yeah, it's and then like when you get so tired and so like knocked down by life, sometimes it's like when you need to have tea the most and then you can't manage to do it, you know? And I couldn't even force myself to have tea. Something that like you just have so much joy and you get so excited to do can just go away. And that's like the, you know, marker of like something wrong happening with like your, not wrong, but like you're getting into a difficult mental space where like the things that you love are not like making you happy at that moment, either situationally or, you know, chronically. And then it like helps you pay attention. So I feel like, you know, tea didn't pressure me during that month to be like, hey, you know, you ho, like you need to brew tea. It's more of my voice in my head. It's like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you make tea? It's what you do. Come on, like tea is it's just hot water and leaves. It's so simple. Just put some tea in a gaiwan and then do this. You know, it should be so simple, right? And then clean up afterwards, right? But that's why it's kind of nice that then tea can be like my gentle reminder to be like, hey, Ree, you know, I know you. You've been doing tea for 12 plus years, right? If you're not feeling tea right now, you should probably take care of yourself because you can't even like do like a simple tea session. Just be more aware of like how you're feeling, Ree. I'm like, okay. Am I anthropomorphizing the tea? A little bit, you know, it can work as a metaphor. It doesn't have to be literally the tea is talking to you. I think I'm somewhere in the middle. Sometimes I let the tea talk to me, whether just my brain helping me make sense of things more or like, you know, whatever else like mystical, magical chachi is happening. I don't know. I just know it happens and it helps, you know? I think it does. So it's just nice to have something to channel your thoughts and like reflections into, something to mirror what you're doing, if that makes sense. And to just remind you about some things. That's tea to me. It's a very, very nice friend. Tea is very patient. I don't throw that out lackadaisically. Like tea is like, so when people are like, oh, I'm so sorry I didn't get to see your stream. I'm so sorry I didn't make that workshop. I'm so sorry I didn't get back to you. I'm just like, I've missed so many messages. I've missed so many events. I've like, what, you know, like missed out on making tea for months at a time. You come back to it and then tea is just waiting for you. It's no rush and there's no bar to meet, which is nice. If you have any thoughts on that, feel free to share with me. If not, feel free to just keep, you know, drinking and chilling out, enjoying your vacation, your Saturday evening, whatever it might be. I think I hit a good steep right here. Ooh, very nice, lovely. So first steep was good. Second steep was a little bit too abrasive, just a tiny bit. Third steep is delicious. I think that's great.
I think they've all been great.
Thanks, Steven. I'm just being particular about it. I want to do the best by the tea, you know. Pre-tea post, welcome to the stream. We're just having a Korean green tea right now. This is the Muwi Sejak from Morning Korean Tea. They do a Korean tea group buy directly from the producers. About once a year. I think they want to do it twice a year. This is from like 2 years ago though. See, trust, like it's only recently I've been able to drink that my green teas. It's still very good though. Mumui Sejak from Dongchon. Dongchon is a producer. Love Dongchon. Korean green tea and Dongchon. Whew. Like really, really, I think for the value, best Korean green tea producer so far for us. Just delicious. If you notice too, if you have any questions about this, I am stacking my brews. I don't necessarily try to like keep them separate. I know it can be like, oh, you know, you have to keep the steep separate. I think there's some merit to that if you like to keep the steep separate. But really, steeps of a tea, we keep them separate, but they're already made distinct from each other because of a human choice. If a tea is like this, right, and becomes steeps, it is us who is creating those differences, right? So if I'm trying to get to know a tea, I don't necessarily have to go steep by steep by steep by steep because I created those differences anyway. If I just merge steeps together, I'm still getting to know the tea. So that's why I don't really mind so much stacking steeps. Stacking steeps meaning combining steep 1 and 2, steep 2 and 3, steep 3 and 4. I'm not saying it's not valid to keep steeps separate. I think it's good if you want to like focus in on and see how it's changing more, you know, step by step by step. Just explaining. So I get questions about that sometimes. So this is the 4th steep, I'd say.
Yes.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, the sea is like settle down. Yeah, I feel like these early green teas, they... Does anyone say anything about early harvest green tea? Is anyone a fan? Or has not even liked them? Which is, it happens too. Early harvest green tea can often be, I'd say, disappointing for some people the first time you have it. And it's because we're not used to having first harvest green teas, I think. If you are not from like a family that has drunk first harvest green tea for a long time or from that region and you're used to like drinking first harvest green tea, the appeal of it is not something we have a lot of practice with as the typical tea consumer, you know? And you will notice things, you and me will notice things that we have a lot of practice with. So the taste of a Lipton tea bag is very familiar to a lot of us who've grown up with that kind of tea culture. Or maybe like jasmine green tea at dim sum, right? And both of those kinds of teas are very just everyday grade, right? And so the flavors that are more obvious in them are like that tea taste, like Lipton tea taste, jasmine green tea taste. It's very straightforward, obvious, a little bittersweet, tannic, you know. So we get accustomed to that. And that is a effect of the way that the tea was processed, right? Average harvest, average processing, maybe up or down a little bit, above average, below average. And we get used to those flavor compounds in those batches. Early harvest green tea, then, I find, and I've had this issue too before myself, which is why I'm aware of it. When you first have an early harvest green tea, you can either just really like it, or, and it's very common, to feel like it doesn't have that much flavor. Like you're looking for like fireworks to happen because you just paid that much money for friggin' spring harvest green tea. You waited in the mail, you tracked the DHL, FedEx is like, you know,
Express shipping.
express shipping, it's held in customs. You're like, damn it. There's all this like, you know, hype around the spring harvest, etc., etc., etc. And so there's often that situation where you can find someone, anyone, me, you, Steven, you know, with their first really early spring harvest green tea. And it's the most expensive green tea you've bought and the most hype. And then you drink it after you brew it a certain way, you follow the instructions and so on. And then it's a little disappointing. Number one, whatever you taste is correct, right? Because that's what your senses are telling you. Not correct, but I mean, like, it's valid to you. And I'm saying valid to you, yes, I am about to, like, you know, follow it up with a, however, it's subjective. I think that it's because we're not used to what is an early harvest spring tea. And early harvest spring tea has more different levels of flavor compounds than what we're used to. It is more L-theanine versus polyphenol. What does that mean? The stuff that makes it like mellow and like soft, L-theanine, very generalistically, is higher versus the bittersweet, more flavorful, punchy polyphenols, right? If you understand this, great. If you don't worry. This will come up over and over again. L-theanine and polyphenols. Just remember those two. And if you hear them through the grapevine, just remember that, okay, I remember that Ree said that. If this is a review, still remember, the quality of a tea classically is usually determined by the ratio of L-theanine to polyphenols. Can you get that balance correct? Right? If you can, you probably have a good tea. Early harvest spring tea has more L-theanine per ratio, which is softer and mellower. Softer and mellower, you could easily make the connection that softer, mellower, less flavor, kind of disappointing, right? So that's what happens, is that, I don't know for myself, when I was getting my first really expensive green teas, I'm like, it's going to be an explosion. It's going to be like, wow, like all this, like, it's going to be more like the seaweed taste that I have in sencha, or like that vegetable taste, that broccoli taste, that, green bean taste, chestnut taste, all of these common flavors in typical green tea are going to be bigger. The volume should turn up, right? Because I'm turning up my volume for my wallet, right? But actually it's turned down because there's more of that mellowing flavor compound. And that's actually the, classical ideal that is more like that it is being targeted. It's actually easy to make a very punchy, flavorful, big tea, and a little bit more difficult to cultivate a more mellow tea. So you pay more for it. Anyway, too long did read, too long did hear. Early harvest green tea is more subtle. If you like that, great. If you don't like it, that's fine too. But, if you do find yourself drinking an early harvest tea in general, and you're finding like, it's not as flavorful as I thought, I'm a little disappointed, maybe give it one more shot, hotter water, and then try to shift your attention away from the flavor and see where else it hits. It's like, okay, the flavor's disappointing. No, I agree. Like, I actually think that early harvest green tea, it's not about a note. I can't even tell you what this tastes like. It's like green beans, maybe, but it's not, I couldn't tell you a flavor note for this. It's not as obvious, and I'm quite comfortable pulling out flavor notes if I have to. Like green beans, cream of corn, I guess, is what I'm getting from this. The skin of like a broccoli stem, I get some of that, but it's not that obvious. However, you shift attention away from that and to the texture of the tea and the purity of the tea. Like, how does it ring on your mouth? How does it echo? A little vague, that's okay. But try to look for that. Like, this entire tea industry and many people who have liked early harvest green tea really value this. Why would Japan have a Shincha harvest season if everyone is crazy? There's just no way, right? Like, there's no way that like 1,000 Japanese tea enthusiasts who have loved Shincha are crazy. You don't have to be the same as them, but what is it that they're looking for? What is it that they're valuing if it's not the big flavor of the tea? And I think it's because there is a different, as someone who does like early harvest green teas, texture, the clarity of the tea, the purity of the tea, how it feels. It's just very friendly and pure and clean. Absolutely less flavor. I agree with you. But yeah, just some tips for early harvest green tea. And if you don't like it, you can either accept that and you can save money because then you don't have to buy early harvest spring green tea. Or maybe try drinking it some more and seeing if you start settling into that flavor and you like it better, which is actually how it happened to me. Like now I prefer like early harvest spring green tea. I like the taste of it. I like the purity. I like the clarity. I like green tea across the spectrum. So, yeah. Let's see. So, Input, let's see, TNT. I enjoy early harvest green teas, but haven't bought any this year, unfortunately. That's fine. Yeah. I'm glad you like them. I'm just thinking about how last year you didn't buy any either. I get a lot of FOMO in terms of like, yeah, I didn't get any spring green tea this year. Everyone's having a good time with their spring green tea. Do you know, does the early harvest green tea age with time, say a month or two? It depends on who you ask. Some people would really prefer it to be very, 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 very fresh. And then other people would say to have it sit. I think they're different experiences. So you'd have to see what you like. I personally think that there is a lot of merit to letting tea sit for a little bit, but you kind of sacrifice some things, right? The early harvest
For
taste.
months, I think they,
Yeah. In Japan, it's not even just for early harvest spring green tea, but let's use the example of matcha and gyokuro. Those are two teas that are actually let to sit for a little bit longer. You typically wouldn't do like a fresh early harvest matcha. Matcha's base material tencha is actually allowed to rest until the autumn before it's then consumed. Same thing with gyokuro. Like historically. Historically meaning like in the past. I'm not saying it's ancient, like tens of thousands of years old. You know, traditions change, right? But it is not unheard of to prefer even early harvest spring green tea with like a month or two of age. So see what you like. The Namorti, I'm interested in this conversation with you. I disagree. I've had the explosion of flavor. It's all in the breeding and quality of raw leaf. In the brewing and quality of raw leaf. Needs to be brewed at a lower temperature to bring out umami, and then can brew like sencha. Yeah. I like this conversation because I think it also depends on a lot of factors. I absolutely agree that in terms of what I say is never going to be the ultimate answer, so thank you for disagreeing with me. The thing that I think of is to not disagree that you have had an explosion of flavor. Because if you experience an explosion of flavor, which many people do, I think this is very flavorful. If we're talking about flavor in a certain way, I think that there's an explosion of a different kind of flavor with these teas, is what I tend to refer to. So I think you are right that I wouldn't say there's anything lacking in terms of experience with these teas. But I will, what I think my opinion is that there's less of the straightforward, typical flavor in early harvest green tea versus the regular green tea. I guess. I don't want to say regular though, 'cause it's like I don't want to look down on certain grades. Like I like summer harvest green tea. The other tea I really like from this company, Dongchan, is their summer harvest green tea. It's this tea and that tea about equal. Like it's not that I really prefer early spring harvest teas only. I love their summer harvest green tea. But I do think that that tea, that taste is more popular. So I remember being at a and this is where I can trade notes with you and see if we're talking about the same thing. I remember going to a very, very high-end green tea tasting. This was a very, very famous vendor, extremely well known for their tea, like top-notch reputation, okay? And I went to a green tea tasting that they did in June of their spring harvest green teas for the year. So it was a big deal. Excellent teas. We're talking about like pre-Qingming, like extremely early harvest, Dragonwell, Gyokuro that people, you know, like had to like go to Japan to like go to the whatever auction they went to, and there was only 2 kg, and they were the only vendor in that country that had it. Some Korean Woojeon, which is Korean Woojeon is like the highest grade Korean green tea, etc. I thought I had a great time. Like it was great. I think we had like 10 or 12 teas. It was crazy. Green teas. And very skilled brewers, very skilled, you know, vendor. And then we went around the table and they asked at the end, "Hey everyone, tell us what your favorite green tea was from this session." And I said it was a gyokuro. The 2 kg per year gyokuro was amazing, like mind-blowingly delicious. So, so good. Everyone else at the table said the summer harvest Korean green tea. I actually think it was a dongshan because of the way that they described it. Everyone else said more or less, like of course they said other things, but everyone agreed that they loved the ipcha. And that's the summer harvest green tea. And afterwards, I had a conversation, just very mildly, with the host, and they were like, yeah, it's disappointing because, we try to bring in these amazing green teas and people just don't like them. And I'm like, and this is interesting to me. It's a big problem, which is why I've thought about it a lot, because I have a big passion for these amazing teas, and I am closer to the host, right? Like, it is disappointing when you bring out these incredible green teas and then the audience doesn't get it. Personally, for me, if you put me in a position, I'm gonna like go home and cry. Like a little bit. Maybe I've gotten a little bit better about it, but like, you just want people to like the tea that you like, right? Like, you get excited about it. There's something that moves you, which is why you share tea in the first place, right? That's what all of us do. That's why we brew tea, is we want people to taste what we're tasting, which is an explosion of flavor, right? That thing that really gets you going. And this is me. That's why I make sounds when I drink these teas, right? Like, it lights me up. I want people to taste that. But we can't, apparently they couldn't, and I can't. I haven't been able to figure it out. I can't sit down someone and be like, you need to like this tea. This is like my teacher's tea, high mountain. I've been to this friggin' farm. I've like, sat in the tea bushes and gotten rained on next to the tea bushes. This is Jade Mountain, right? You need to like it. And now I'm actually, considering whenever we send out tasting boxes, because we started sending out oolong tasting boxes, right? I'm actually considering switching out our teacher's tea for a different oolong, because tendencies are the beginner does not understand that oolong very well, Jade Mountain. Do I demand that they have a palate like mine, or do I say something's wrong with them? I think it's more of like the common issue that they have said is like, I can't really taste this very much. Which is interesting, right? I'm not saying that's the same situation for everyone. I'm just sharing what like I've seen. And I have to be put in that position of like, oh man, like, what do I do? Because I know that tea's really good, but it ends up being like the too quiet for the tasting. This is a real example that I'm using, by the way. And then because people luckily trust us, they're like, oh, maybe it's me. I'm not brewing that tea correctly. I'm gonna try it again. Okay, can you send me some more? I'll buy some more. I'm like, no. It's not that there's something wrong with you. That tea definitely is just a little bit more mellow, So that's the issue that I've run into. However, ultimately, I do really like these teas. So I'm not trying to disagree too much. It's more of just like, I like that we're able to trade notes about that. And it is good to be able then to hear, like, I have this opinion and it's this experience, and then Amorti, you have this opinion and this experience. And so then people can then be able to take whatever works best for them, being able to listen to different experiences, Because yeah, ultimately, what if you just like brewing with lower temperature, or you do like those teas? And I know the Kurihara Gyokura, that tea is quite punchy. That Kurihara Gyokura, I know it quite well. And that's a tea I definitely would not take lightly. That tea. So, thank you for sharing. And I agree, it's quite. Is it tricky to brew? It just wants to hit a certain note, because I think that tea can be very, very umami very quickly. I was remembering one of the first workshops that Stephen and I met. That was a gyokuro, I think, that I brewed for that Japanese tea session. Do you remember Nicole's face? Oh my gosh. Really, really funny. So anyway, just some ideas, just some notes. So thank you again for sharing that. It's not that I pretend to say that my way of perceiving things is the only way. And there's a lot of like agreement that I have too with what you have to say. Even with that though, it's like, yeah, because I am talking about polyphenol presence at high temperature. When you drop the temperature, it's more about the umami and that thickness, that texture. I also find that it's like a 50-50 if the if a newer person, a newer to tea drinker likes that sensation. Like half people would be like, "Oh my god, my mind is blown." You like Gyokuro a lot actually. So that Kuriharu Gyokuro actually got you into Japanese green tea. This was one of my first Gyokuros as well. And then the other half is just like, "What? What the hell is this?" Which I think is good, you know? It's good to have like a memorable tasting experience. So this is the fifth steep on this tea. Um, I think it's settled in very, very nicely to what it's supposed to be. We're supposed to like hang out. Sweet, lovely, just really nice. Show the leaves, Stephen, if you can. Just want to show the prettiness of the leaves in the RB Ceramics Shibo. Ah, thank you, Ravine. It made my showing off green tea leaves dreams come true. Yeah. Wonderful. It's very friendly. I'm interested too. We have like, oh no, I'm not sure if we have the time. I'd like to see if we can like brew this tea at a lower temperature because that's something I've honestly been also playing around with a lot more lately. Is I've had a period of maybe like 3 or 4 or 5 years, who knows? Pandemic time is like warps your sense of like how long things have been. I've gone through a phase of brewing very, very hot, and it's been very, very rewarding. I don't think I'll ever stop brewing super hot, but I am moving into a phase of wanting to experiment more again with very low temperature brewing. Because I started there, right? I started with my Japanese tea journey mostly doing lower temperatures and, you know, Gyokuro at like 120 degrees Fahrenheit, 140, etc. Sencha much lower, white tea, oolong even. And I think tea practice can go in cycles. I find myself starting to lean again towards experimenting with lower temperatures. Um, I think both have their merits. It's more like where do you deploy them? What would you choose to do based on who's with you, based on what you would like, based on what you prefer, based on the tea. You down, Steven, to do a low temperature brew of this tea?
Let's do it.
Okay. So Mui Seijak, let's drop it down to much lower than we go.
Let me just add water to the cup.
I want to like, I'd actually prefer to let it sit for a little bit. So let's see, Amora tea, yes, that's the idea, to have the hit. It's not organic, and the Japanese believe organic tea does not bring out the umami or give you the explosion. I think that's a very, very good point in terms of then, like, what direction are you trying to go with? So just to trade notes with you too, I have tended to be in a phase lately that I prefer organic tea. And it's not a comment on which is better or not. I honestly did have like a little bit of a stick up my ass for like maybe a year that like organic only flavor wise. The Global Japanese Tea Marathon changed my mind on that because we ran into a lot of organic teas that I did not like. I think I just was lucky because I was getting tea from Tyus at the Tea Crane for a while, and then a couple just really, really lucky just encounters with organic Japanese green tea that were amazing. And then I tasted some that were like, you know, I don't think it's just organic tea. It's not a dig at like the producers, but like there were some conventional teas that I liked better during that marathon. And I'm like, wow, maybe it really isn't just organic or not organic, you know? So I'll be the first to admit that. I need to like I chilled out about it a little bit. But yeah, I like the taste of tendencies are organic cultivated Japanese green tea or conventional Japanese green tea that isn't so umami. Is that the right thing though? No, because I also have friends and like a previous version of me, and I'm sure maybe a future version of me could do this too, where the ideal for a Japanese green tea is the umami. Like really, really thick, rich umami. Because when I hear someone say that, they like the Kurihara Gyokuro, I can, I or anyone else can then start to adjust. Oh, okay. If I'm sitting down with my friend who likes this tea, I am not going to impose my version of what I like all that much because they already like it. Like we have Japanese green tea friends who like umami, which is why we actually made Springtide the water formula that we did. Because I'm like, the first formula we did was really me and Steven's taste. A lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people like it. A lot of people didn't. And I'm like, wow, that's true. What about this other version of like the spectrum that needs to be covered as well? And it's just as like important because some people will not like the way that I brew green tea because I am not highlighting that and will prefer if they were given the first chance to taste a Japanese green tea, you better brew them like a really gorgeous gyokuro with like a thick umami. It's gonna light them up, and then they're gonna get the tea, and that's great. So that's the thing I think of when we talk about these things is like, what happens at that point of like having someone brew tea with you and drink tea with you? What experiences are we choosing to have with them? And that's what's cool about having so many of us into tea and so many different opinions and so many different approaches is that whatever you have that you have to bring to the table, your preferences, the way you brew tea, what you like, what you get excited about, what you don't like, what you talk about while you're brewing tea, is bound to inspire someone somewhere. Often many kinds of people, and that's awesome. I just really like it. It's my favorite thing about tea. Um, so I'm glad that so you're saying Amorti is saying I held a workshop and everyone was impressed with Kurihara. That's brilliant. Like when you have that situation come up, I think that's like the best. And like all this theory, like the discussion behind the scenes, when you're actually deploying it and able to like have an experiential conversation with people, like show them something cool, just make them happy, even for a moment, whether they get into tea or not. I think it's like the best. So thank you for sharing that also. Um, so saying hello to Michael, how's it going? I've been talking for a while. Emily, Akila, nice to see you. How's your Saturday going? We're discussing nuances in green tea, approaches in green tea, because we are drinking a Mui Sejak from Dongchon. Might be familiar for those of you who have done the Korean group buy before. This is the early harvest Sejak, and I like it a lot. Just discussing like what we see in early harvest green teas versus, and I'm really appreciate this conversation, different approaches to trying to bring out what is nice about these teas, I would say. Because yeah, it's totally true. I'm thinking of like tea producers who are like, Ree, why are you brewing so hot? Like, I prefer it. Then I also know tea producers who are like, yeah, like, I wish people would brew hotter. It goes both ways. So see, you can see my discomfort with this. You can see that I haven't brewed like low in a long time. So I could easily keep up a conversation with you if I'm brewing hot and I will not oversteep my tea. But now that I'm like having to brew low, I'm out of practice. It just, if you can notice, it's like, how low do I have to go again? Like, what's the feeling of my cup when it's like ready to like brew at a low temperature again? So I find that to be, if I can be honest, a hole in my tea brewing skill lately. I used to be able to, because I used to brew lower temperature, my skill then at brewing with the lower temperature to bring out the best in a green tea was a little bit better back then, but now I'm out of practice. So if then I was faced with your group, Amor, I'm not sure if I'd be able to have brought out the Kurihara in the same way. I will say though, what do you think about the Kagoshima versus naturality in Kurihara? Because I don't think that there is a certain region that is lower grade than others, like generalistically. Some of our favorite teas have come from Kagoshima, and being aware that like Kagoshima is a bigger tea region, so there is a lot of like, mass-produced tea, as there is in any region. But I think that good tea can come from any region. About the same amount as before, right? Can I like show off the RB Ceramics Shivo again? Sorry, Havain, I just gotta like admire your ceramics. I mean, and he likes tea. I think that's a big thing for like ceramicists, is that when they truly love tea, and they like to experiment also, and like Ravain is like a big experimenter and like drinks a lot of different teas. It shows up in the teaware. They make tea that's very comfortable to hold, and just like it just harmonizes with tea really well. So then I didn't have to explain myself too much. I just sent him a really quick Instagram message like, hey, this is what I want. Okay, got it. It shows up. It's like, wow, gorgeous. Okay. All right. So I don't even know what temperature this is. It's probably going to be, because my kettle right now is 82. I bet it's like 70 Celsius, more or less. For those of you who are brewing tea with us, how are your teas treating you today? I'm having a very good tea session. Enjoying this conversation a lot. And this tea.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good water too.
So we're using our original, Tea Curious's original formula. I'm speaking in like third person basically. It's a Tea Curious original formula at half dose. Very stable tea. I really appreciate Dongshan so much. Should that be long enough? I'll let it sit a little longer. Is no one having tea right now? Yeah, I'm talking to you. If you're not having tea, that's okay. I'm just wondering. We've had a dongding today, and then a balyocha. I didn't want to tell people what it was that was not agreeing with us, but it's okay.
You probably didn't hear me.
Yeah. Okay, so let's brew this tea. So this is at 70 degrees Celsius. The color is different. It's a little bit darker, I would say. I'm not sure if it's because I steeped it a little longer, but it is darker. Thank you, Amorti. Have a good day. Emily's saying, no, but you're making me want to get some tea. No pressure. No worries. I know it's a little later over there, too. Ha! Nice smell. I really, really like it. Okay, now, when I do this, and I'm trying out a new, relatively new to me brewing technique, I have to be aware that I have a bias. And my bias is, I really like green tea brewed hot. And I have had many situations in the past where someone has brewed me a green tea that's too light, and I'm disappointed because I prefer green tea brewed hot. You're allowed to have biases, right? You're allowed to have preferences. But if you're trying to study, you have to be aware that, like, you need to, like, try to shake things up a little bit. It's not hard for me, but I do want to point it out that it's challenging and you have to do it. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do anything, but like, what I think of is like, again, this is practice, right? If I had to serve tea for a group that I know does not prefer hot green tea, you have to have the skill, So it's important either way.
70 C is too hot for some people.
Yeah, it's true.
It needs to be 40 AC
Right.
for 10 minutes.
Right.
50 mLs.
Right. Totally.
Fine,
Totally.
good girl.
So it's more of like just experiences and seeing, just adding to your toolbox.
Oh, we got cut off.
Oh, yeah, so welcome back if you are someone who got kicked off the other stream. I guess we have a limit now. How dare they? How dare they cut me off in an hour? So welcome back. This is, for your recording purposes, part 2 of our Mui Sejak session on Saturday, 8/20. So welcome back. Pratik, welcome back. Tim Sullivan, hello. Agatha, welcome back. Mel, nice to see you. We are trying our second session of the Mui Sejak from Dongshan today with a lower temperature. And I grit my teeth and I try to remember, hey, let it be what it needs to be. The stream cut off right when I drank my first sip of it. I still want it to be hot. But let me still move with that. That's just the original reaction. Let's find ways to enjoy it. Which is quite challenging for me. Sometimes when I like something, I really like something, which is why I'm still dating Steven after 3 years. I'm just kidding, Steven. But what are your thoughts? Do you mind sharing? Hi, Shiloh. Nice to see you. So the ask here
It's
is...
good. It's just, it could be better. It could be more in line with my preferences.
Yes.
And someone's going to say, well, don't make your opinion on lower temperature brewing off of Korean teas because, should be, I don't know, Gyokuro or something.
Yeah, but this is an early harvest green tea, which, classically, or not classically, but a lot of, wouldn't you guys say, it's very common for there to be a recommendation for early harvest spring green tea and green tea in general to be lower. So even if it is Korean,
Yeah.
there's some merit to that. Because you've heard this before maybe, oh, it's very tender buds, don't burn them, don't. Is it valid? Yeah, totally. It just depends on what you like.
It needs to be XYZ.
Yeah. But for me, so now I'm thinking, let me tell you about Jollibee, okay? What I'm thinking about is Jollibee. And Jollibee is, do you not know what Jollibee is? How can we be friends if I haven't told you what Jollibee is or you don't know? It's okay. I'll forgive you. You are forgiven. Jollibee is every Filipino kid's version of heaven, okay? When we were growing up in Manila, when we were watching TV, every single commercial break, more or less it felt like, there was a Jollibee commercial. And in those commercials, we were engineered to believe that the best day you could ever have in your life is a birthday at Jollibee, okay? And Jollibee, what is this Jollibee place? Jollibee is, yes, it's fried chicken. Filipino fried chicken that you have with rice and gravy, okay? And the contentious thing, okay, rice and gravy, some people are like, chicken with rice and gravy, that's a little odd. The contentious thing about Jollibee, though, and this being the fast food kind of king of the Philippines, is our spaghetti. Our spaghetti gets people really, really, really angry, including Filipinos. It's just this weird islander shame or something like that, where people are like, oh, we're so sorry, Italy, for the spaghetti that we make at Jollibee. Let me explain this spaghetti to you. Is there much explaining to do? It's basically ketchup hot dog spaghetti. Sweet, very sweet, Is it inferior to Italian spaghetti? I would like to ask the question of you. Is it's my country's version of spaghetti, is the hot dog ketchup spaghetti inferior to Italian spaghetti with red sauce marinara? I'm not all that well versed in Italian cuisine, but I'm not dumb. I'm aware of it, Is it inferior? I'm not gonna be mad, because this is a discussion. If you say yes, I will be like a tiny bit like, what? But we're gonna talk about it, right? Um, do I like that spaghetti? Honestly, I like it. I do. And the reason is because we grew up with it. We grew up with that spaghetti. That's the spaghetti that I ate. So like, when I was growing up and we had birthday parties, that's the spaghetti I had. Like ketchup spaghetti with hot dogs. So that gets ingrained into my system as like good tasting. So do I like Italian spaghetti? Really, really, very much so. I loved Italy. Italy was amazing. The food in Italy is amazing. I love the way that they treat red sauce in Italy. Italy being a giant country, by the way, and there's different culinary traditions even in Italy, right? But I don't think that that spaghetti is objectively better or worse than Filipino spaghetti. And people who are like, yo, like, if you're these people, hear me out. That's not spaghetti. What an abomination to Italian food. It's like, but according to who? If you feed that spaghetti to a Filipino kid, like from Italy, you'll alienate that kid. Like you will. You will just alienate them. And I dare you to tell that kid, no, your palate is not good enough. The correct spaghetti is marinara sauce with basil spaghetti with legit sausage. All this to say, I'm having a difficult time still processing this tea as being my preference. Because we've gotten to like our tea a certain way. We just have to be aware though that like for me myself, there are many people who prefer this. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. So basically in a nutshell, I'm gonna continue brewing my tea on a day-to-day basis with hot water. I should continue to still try doing this because there might be something I'm missing. And this is a way of brewing tea that will be more hospitable to a lot of people. And that's okay. Like both ways are okay and valid. And if you have the bandwidth, I know not all of you like, host tea for people. It's not that, I take it seriously because I work in it and like, I try to like bring tea to people. But if you do share tea with people in any regard, having more tools in your toolbox as a tea person is helpful, So brew hot, brew hot and brew low, brew hot and brew cold. See what they do. What are the merits of both? What are the drawbacks of both? See where that takes you. you know? Yeah. Zaklish, welcome. Gina, is that you from Ephemeral? Just wondering. Otherwise, you guys have very similar Instagram handles. Shiloh. So Shiloh does know. My aunt makes this. You're talking about the Filipino spaghetti, I imagine? It's a classic in her home to this day. It's instant nostalgia. She mixed the ketchup into the marinara sauce, though. Yeah, yeah. To me, it's not inferior at all. It's a legitimate style or Italian/American fusion food. I would take a stance more similar to yours. And I'm not even saying that mine is the only stance either. I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of really intense reason to believe that Italian spaghetti is better. In that case, feel free to have a conversation with me, but I agree. It's just a different style. Mel from Shiro Sakura Yuki is saying, I think that it's nothing like Italian spaghetti. It is very different, and that would be like asking about spam musubi or sushi rolls being bad because it's not real sushi. Yeah, yep, I agree with you. It's not bad or better, it's just different. Neither is more legit. I didn't even think about that. Spam musubi and sushi. That's true, huh? Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't even think about that connection, but it's very potent to me because I like both. I would not bring sushi on a hiking trip though. I'd bring spam musubi. You know, like, yeah.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Dude, Steven's asking is a hot dog a sandwich. I'm not gonna go into that. That's no longer related to like to brewing. So it's a hot dog a sandwich. Hot dog's a hot dog. Just call it what it is. It's like saying paliocha. Is paliocha black tea? Or is paliocha oolong? I like that tea better. I like it better. So the difference, so let's practice what's good about it. I am finding some good qualities to this tea. Um, it shifts the flavor. So for those of you just joining us, we're drinking a Korean green tea that I'm brewing now for the second time with a lower temperature to try to just challenge myself because I like higher temperature brewing for green tea. What I like about the higher temperature brewing is that it's very, it's round and a little bit lifting. It's uplifting. I like it a lot. Very clean, clear, bright, confident presence. A little bit less punchy. This tea does have more flavor, I would say. But it shifts a little bit lower and it goes a little bit more like this shaped. If what I'm doing is not making sense to you, don't worry about it. But if you're interested, keep listening, no problem. We all experience things in different ways, but this is how I'm trying to like visualize it. So instead of doing this, it goes like this. But that's not a bad shape. That's like a sandwich. And it's easier to eat like that, right? This is more packaged. It's thicker. I would say the frontal flavor is more obvious. And there's more floral and the kind of cream of corn almost taste to it. So it's nice. It's a different approach. It makes the tea very, very different, I would say. Very, very different. For those of you having tea with us, by the way, how's your tea doing? Don't let me pressure you into having tea if you're not having tea. Don't worry. But if you are having tea, let me know how your tea is doing. I'm very much liking our tea practice today. It's been a pretty good day for study. Thoughts, Stephen, on this tea?
I prefer it hot. That's not to say that this is bad. It's just, you
know. Mm-hmm. What can you imagine a situation where you'd brew this like this? Or like what merits can you find in this tea? This style?
There's less of a risk of burning your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
You're less likely to... You can drink it faster.
Mm-hmm. There's like a floral sourness that comes out like this. Maybe I brewed it a little bit too long. It's possible because I'm not that well practiced in it. I did let it go long because I figured lower temperature, right? Interesting. Need more practice. Maybe I should have like a 1 week period of time where we brew low. Steven made a face. So what do you guys think to wrap up? Where do you like to brew your green tea? Feel free to be specific about what kind of green tea we're talking about. And yeah, if you were a lower temperature brewer, what tips would you have for me as someone who has been a low temperature brewer, has gone back up and then back down? And I'm saying that because I have done low temperature brewing. But maybe what can you share with me? And I'll be very more obvious with my ask. I think it's good to be clear, right? How can I go back to, you know, being able to do lower temperature brewing? What experiences have you seen where like someone, including you, has really lit up with like a low temperature brew? And what did you experience that I might be missing after so many years of hot brewing? Because I am very, very hot brewing now. Is that a valid question? I think it's an okay question to ask. Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like, you know, there must be someone who's Filipino who grew up with like Jollibee spaghetti, went to Italy and is like, I can't believe I haven't been eating spaghetti like this all my life. Falls in love with spaghetti, opens a spaghetti shop in Italy, goes back home and is like,
nobody likes it.
What's wrong with my spaghetti back home? You know, like the Filipino spaghetti. But then you come back and realize like, wow, it's because people like it a lot. So both ways are true. I'm just making up stories in my head now. Yeah. It's challenging. Honestly, when I'm doing this, it does not feel comfortable to engage with things like this because we're human. We prefer what's comfortable to us. We prefer what we know, especially if what we know is like hard-earned knowledge. Like, I feel very strongly about hot brewing green tea because it's taken me a while. It took me a while to get to that point, and I just like it so much. And it's just rewarded me so many times with amazing tea, you know? Like, brilliant, just incredible tea. So, of course, you're gonna stick to it. So, I guess my ask for feel free for it to be you, but also for me, just to be show you what my process is like, can you hold both things with care in two hands? Like, really, really appreciate what you like and don't mess with it. Like, what I like is great. I'm not crazy. I like this thing. But this thing is also great. It might not be my favorite, but it's just as great as this other thing. And we should and we can enjoy this and use it more. Explore it, enjoy it, like just play with it. And it doesn't invalidate this thing. For me, that's very difficult to do. I think it's a very human thing where like it's so hard to have things like sit on even ground. But I think that's what I want to do. I think that's why tea goes in cycles. A practice of like go back to a thing, you kind of back off, you come back to it. Okay, I'm getting philosophical now. It's probably because there's another thing too. Low temperature brew will bring out more L-theanine versus polyphenol, and I'd say caffeine. Yeah, caffeine is I'm just like zoning out. I am zoning out a little bit because the L-theanine. I think the L-theanine effect is so high. And you can see, right? I'm getting a little bit like loopy, philosophical, a little bit more than usual.
It's a fourth tea of the day, so which we never do that.
I also think it's a tea. I can feel L-theanine feeling at this point. It just makes me want to like go read a book outside and not talk on stream. Yeah. I will sit with this more. I will practice more with this. It's challenging. It hurts my brain a little bit, but that's why we need to do it, you know? Yeah. One last sip, Stephen. Try to find something that you like in it. A lot. I know you said you like
It
it's
tastes good.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different taste.
To make it extreme then, what about that makes it better than a hot steep? Just as a thought process, thought experiment. That's something I'll ask myself too. Not just like equal, but because we have to even it out, right? Because we like hot steeps so much. What about that makes it better? For you. For you. I'm gonna bug you about it until you give an answer.
I'll have to have a hot steep again.
Bro. I'm gonna bother you about it until you tell me. Even off stream, we don't have to like wait. I think it brings out the floral and brothy qualities of this tea better.
Yeah, brothy.
Mm-hmm. It's more like it tastes like it's like more like a sandwich, like little nugget of like flavor that you can more easily bite into. I would say.
That's my answer.
Okay, Stephen. Well, thank you for joining us for tea practice today. It was fun. I feel like we always go in wanting to do a casual session and it ends up being like intensive. Maybe it's just tea though. You know how like for those of you who've like been to a tea shop, you go in there being like, I'm just gonna pick up something really quick, and then you end up being there for like
7 hours.
7 hours is a long time. 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, you know. I think tea is just like that. But I've appreciated this conversation with you guys. Thank you for joining us. Whether you are live or watching the replay, thanks for having tea with us. It's always nice to be able to exercise our tea muscles with you. Maybe Sunday we'll have a very casual session. Who knows? We've done it a little bit here and there. Do you have any plans for your Saturday? Or whatever it is day that you're on as you're watching this? Whatever your plans may be, I hope that they go well. Hope you have a good day. So thank you for stopping in. Thanks for supporting us. Thanks for studying tea with us, helping us learn too. And we will see you on the flip side. I need to put like a call to action at the end so that this is my opportunity. Podcast episodes will be out soon. New ones. So we'll have 5 in total. Yay! We worked so hard on them. A poor podcast from Jeffrey McIntosh, which is actually less of a poor podcast and more of like a tea industry podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And a really, really fascinating tea study that we did with Noah from Floating Leaves. So look out for those. And then if you have any questions about them, let us know. If you have any questions about the community that we're running, where we do meet more in person, like on Zoom to like more directly interact with each other, let me know too. And then any other questions, even if they're not related to those things above, let me know. DMs are always open. Anyway, that's it. Chop chop. Have a wonderful time. Bye. See you guys.